And welcome back to Daily Wrap. It's potluck time. This is part of the show. We go around the table and share our favorite stories of the day. And if you're a chick, you get to go first. Jenny.
Hey, thanks.
Look at you.
Yeah. Well, okay, my potluck doesn't smell so good. So I want to talk about Josh Duggar. I think that's how you say it. I've never watched the show 19 Kids and Counting, but as we all know, it's headlines right now that Josh Duggar, it has come out that he was investigated and in fact did commit molestation with some young girls between the time that, well, it started when he was 14, they say. I believe that it continued to go on. He was not investigated until 2006. An investigation came up. At that point, he was 17 or 18. You know, and here's the thing. Who knows how many girls were affected by this? You know, I also understand his sisters were affected by this. He forcibly touched young girls while they were asleep. And it's a big problem because people like Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee are coming out in support of the family. They say it should be forgiven. They say, oh, boys will be boys. He was young. But this isn't, you know, he had a 14-year-old girlfriend and they were caught making out. This is forcible. And that's a problem. Sexual assault is a huge problem in our country. And Huckabee fails to mention any of the victims. He fails to mention there was incest involved. And 14 is old enough to know that what you're doing is wrong. You know, it's very ironic because Josh, you know, just resigned from the Family Research Council, where his big platform was saying that gay people are a threat to children. So I find this extremely hypocritical, but this is why I wrote Femme Evangelical, the Modern Girl's Guide to the Good News, and that's because this is a religious issue, because a certain faction of Christianity that is modeled by the Family Research Council uses biblical literalism to make women secondary. So there's a reason Huckabee didn't mention the female victims. There's a reason the family swept it under the rug, and they have not been honest about it, even though they say they have. They hid it knowing that they were going on a national television show. So my book is a way to talk to women. It's like having a best friend who went to seminary and wants to educate women about what the Bible really says, how it was really put together, how Christian doctrine became what it is, why it's so misogynistic, and what we can do about it. We can keep our faith and still be Christians, yet reject, you know, not holding up women as equal to men and being just as important. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Outstanding. Well, again, we encourage you to buy the book, certainly. There's Jenny right there, ripped jeans and all. That's a tremendous picture. But
it was an accident.
To the point about Huckabee, and then unfortunately we have to move on, he got killed for this on his own Facebook page by people saying, I was going to vote for you and now I cannot, right? And I began to write a column saying he needs to drop out of the race because he didn't have any shot before.
Right.
Now when you start to lose your core base, I mean, his political instincts are just so poor on this one. He could just kept his mouth shut. No one would have expected a comment.
Appreciate somebody standing up for a friend, but that was just ridiculous. And Jenny put her finger, for me, on the big issue. This guy has been working for the most judgmental organization on the face of the earth. They judge everybody who disagrees with them. And so now, how dare this guy be so judgmental when he knows the problems he's had in his life?
Right. And, you know, the Pew studies are showing Christians are decreasing in our country. This is a prime example of why young people are leaving the Christian church. And, you know, they go and speak at Liberty, and Liberty is also well known for victim blaming as well.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you. Now we go to just a tragic story, and A Beautiful Mind was a movie that came out in 2001. I saw it opening night and became one of my favorite movies of all time. Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly deserved all the accolades they got, and oh, by the way, it won Best Picture that year. Also, it was about, of course, the life of John Forbes Nash, brilliant mathematician who basically changed the way businesses do business through what's called now the Nash equilibrium. And he won a Nobel Prize for it in 1994. So, but the story, the movie, was about Nash overcoming schizophrenia, severe schizophrenia. And his wife has to endure this horrible marriage early on, where he thinks he's seeing people and he's putting their young baby at risk, and the movie is just captivating. And Ron Howard did just a tremendous job with it. And so they overcome all of these things, and Nash gets himself relatively well, and then he ends up going back to Princeton, where he becomes a professor, where he worked until just this weekend. And then what happens? They're on the New Jersey Turnpike in a cab, and they get into an accident. They're not wearing their seatbelts, and they get ejected from the cab. And they apparently hit the pavement and they were run over by a second car. Yeah, that's what a preliminary report says, authorities are saying. And this is just amazing. And I say, honestly, cabs should have automatic seatbelts in the back, because there is a poll that was done. 80% of people don't wear seatbelts in the backseat of cars. So if they're not doing it, then somebody has to do it for them, particularly in cabs. So unfortunately, we got to go. More yay and nay in just a moment. Stay there.